Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 8th day of January 2019. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would remain standing, I'd like to start these meetings off with a moment of silence. It gives us a chance to reflect on around the world, some of our military and the sacrifices that they make while we're here making important decisions for our community. There are many brave men and women who are putting their lives on the line to protect and defend the liberties and freedoms that we hold dear. So in their honor, to wish them a safe return home and to thank them for their service, let's join together in silence. Okay, thank you. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, I ask that you please call the roll.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Here.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Schiavone.
Present.
Okay, thank you. So let me start by making a motion to approve the minutes from the Town Board meeting of December 20th, 2018, and the organizational meeting of January 3rd, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Both of those minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, would you read the communications?
Certainly. The communications that have been received in the office of the town clerk, we have received public notices from the Suffolk County Planning Commission regarding SECRA lead agency, Town of East Hampton public hearing notices, Town of Riverhead public hearing notice and chapter filings, Village of Southampton Board of Trustee public hearing notices, New York liquor license 30-day advance notice to local municipalities from the listed entity, and emails, letters, petitions, and land use applications regarding the following. A petition, an email regarding seasonal no parking regulations on Rogers Lane, Remsenburg. Emails and letters regarding the following: Chapter 212, proposed restrictions on exposed polystyrene. Am I saying that right?
Polystyrene?
Community choice aggregation legislation, management of the Hampton Bays Water District, resolution to award Kronos Inc. 2018-1214, and the Zoning Board of Appeals application for Springville Circle, Hampton Bays. The following bid opening took place on December 26, 2018 for vegetative disaster debris removal after declared emergencies. And that concludes the communications for this meeting's agenda.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, next I'd like to amend our agenda to allow some additional resolutions, which we refer to as walk-ons. There are 7 in your walk-on packet. So I will I'll read them. The first one, offered by Councilwoman Scalera, 30863, is a 2019 notice to bidders for embroidered and silk screening clothing. 30867, warrant number 1, which is also capital number 1, CPF number 1, and payroll liability. The third one, 30868, is a continuation of legal services by Stephen Leventhal, Esquire, for ethics matters. The fourth, 30873, sponsored by Councilman Schiavone, authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement with ESRI for consulting support services for the upgrade of the town's ESRI software and system. Number 5, 30876, retains the firm of Margolin Besunder LLP to represent and defend the town in regard to the matter of the Group for the East End, Inc. et al. Versus the Town of Southampton, ZBA, and Discovery, or DLV Quag, LLC, et al. Number 30879, a resolution setting a public hearing to consider the adoption of a Hampton Bays waterfront revitalization plan. And 30881 is reserves community preservation funds, water quality improvement funds to finance water main extensions and connections in certain areas of East Quogue. I'll make a motion to walk those 7 resolutions on.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so those will be, that's approved, they'll be added to our agenda, and we'll take them on later in the meeting. All right, so let's go to public hearings. Most of you are familiar with our public hearing procedures. We do offer speakers 3 minutes to make their comments known. We request that you fill out a yellow card and indicate which hearing you wish to be heard on. We will let you know as your time is running out and ask that you wrap up within the 3 minutes as best that you can. All right, so the first public hearing, Madam Clerk, would you read the hearing notice?
Public hearing number 1 regarding unsafe and dangerous conditions at the premises located at 411 Elliston Way, Bridgehampton.
All right, Richard Harris from our Town Attorney's Office is here to introduce us.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor. Afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, members of the Town Board. This is a Town Board enforcement action brought regarding 411 Elliston Way in Bridgehampton. The property was formerly owned by Vincent A. Velasco. This was brought because of unsafe, dangerous, and unkempt conditions at the property. A notice was given to the Town Board back in November, and we attempted to serve Mr. Velasco with notice of this hearing after he did not appear in justice court for the charges that code enforcement brought. Unfortunately, we did find out that Mr. Velasco has passed away, so he obviously couldn't respond to this notification. Since that time in the advertisement, we were able to locate another owner of the property at an actual physical location. She has been served as of about 2 weeks ago on justice court charges, which are scheduled for arraignment this Friday morning. So I will be prosecuting this in another manner if I don't receive any work by the other defendant. I will be coming back to the Town Board, but at this time I can't go forward with this Town Board proceeding because service was never effectuated. I haven't submitted a resolution even to be acted upon, so I'd ask that this hearing simply be closed with no action.
Is it a proper hearing? It's a legally noticed hearing.
It is noticed, however, since service was not effectuated, the notice itself is ineffectual.
All right, we'll clean that up. All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? I have no cards pertaining to this first public hearing. Seeing none, we'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Thank you.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that is closed, and we'll move on. Madam Clerk, if you read the second public hearing notice.
Public hearing on the acquisition of lands of Bel Air Cove Resorts, Inc., Hampton Bays, and amend the Community Preservation Project Plan and the CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include property.
All right, Mary Wilson, our CPF Director, will introduce this.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Schneiderman, members of the Town Board. Bel Air Cove Resorts Incorporated is the purported owner of approximately 1.4 acres of land located on Shinnecock Road in the hamlet of Hampton Bays, and further identified by Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-323-1, Lot 4. This property is appropriate to add to the Wetlands Target Preservation Area and the Village, Hamlet Green, Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Target Area of the CPF project plan, assuming removal of the improvements. If acquired by CPF, the suggested use of the land is for restoration and passive recreational or park use. The land currently includes a 20-unit motel, parking, and a swimming pool. These structures would have to be removed. The landowner has expressed a willingness to sell this property to the town of Southampton at the negotiated purchase price of $1,060,000, and the proposed source of funding is the Community Preservation Fund.
Any questions from the board? Do you want to point it out? Okay, thank you, Mary. A couple of people who indicated they want to speak. Mr. Enrig, Robert Enrig.
Good afternoon to the members of the board. I am the chairman of the CPF Advisory Board, and I would just like to revoice the opinion of the Advisory Board that the most appropriate use for this property is for the restoration and the public use as a little pocket park there to provide access to all the local citizens there. There has been some discussion of alternative uses for the property, and as an individual, I'd like to base my opinion as to that. And I do not think that would be appropriate. I don't think that the town should be in the development type of business. I think the most appropriate thing for the town is to use the resources of the CPF to acquire the property, all cash, restore it as a park, and have no further risks to the town. I have written an extensive letter to the members of the board voicing all those points in detail, as well as some other issues that I had. If you'd like to talk about that now or in the future, please feel free to call me. But again, I just want to voice the opinion of the advisory board that the most appropriate use for the property is as a pocket park.
Can I ask, when you said that that's what the Community Preservation Fund Committee determined, and I know that was like over a year ago, but did they review the alternative? Did they look at the tourism redevelopment proposals and what limitations there might be before making that determination?
Not before, but post making that determination. It was the alternative uses were presented to the advisory board, and they then reasserted their belief that the most appropriate use is as a pocket
And
park.
who presented those to that board?
It was a point of general information at the time that was available to the members of the board. And
I respectfully request an opportunity to present then to the CPF committee some of the other visions for this property.
So we would welcome that, and we certainly invite you to attend the meeting if you would like.
Thank you.
But we
Just
have
to say that they've determined that that was the best use of the property, when I have no knowledge of to what degree they explored other uses. I think that's important.
the redevelopment of the property into a resort waterfront housing complex of some type was discussed, and we did not feel that that was appropriate. We thought the best use for the community. I happen to be very familiar with the property. I was down there again as recently as yesterday to explore it, then explore the neighborhood, and I do not think that a proposal to construct luxury condos or some type of luxury housing on that site is compatible with the neighborhood at all. And I don't think that it would be prudent for the town to take the risk of acquiring that property and rezoning it with the hopes of a developer coming in and paying the market price, an amount adequate to reimburse the town for its investment on the property. I just don't think the numbers are there.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion.
Invite you, since we'll be discussing later a resolution to do an urban renewal plan, to review that plan. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Maria Holtz?
Okay, Supervisor Schneiderman, the board. The overreaching concern from the HBCA is the continued pollution of our bays and oceans. This site is particularly sensitive due to its proximity to Penny Pond and its floodplain designation. Our sincere preference is to see that the resolution to purchase this property and allow it to revert to its natural state happen. These funds were allocated precisely for this type of situation, construction close to the water with antiquated septic systems. The town is strongly encouraging homeowners and businesses with the same issues to take advantage of these funds. Yet the resolution before us requests a town purchase, not the optimum strategy for ensuring the health of our bays. Having said that, our board members attended the town board meeting in which this resolution for the town to purchase the property was put forth. All the board members, with the exception of Councilwoman Scalera, spoke strongly in favor of the purchase. All community members, with the exception of one, spoke against it or wanted their voice to be heard at a public hearing. The strong reluctance and objection to even allow for a public hearing expressed at the meeting by the board gave us the impression that our request for CPF purchase will be discounted outright. This was a very disappointing and disillusioning outcome. Given this backdrop, the HBCA will support the resolution for purchase with specific caveats not currently addressed within the resolution itself. We respectfully request that the resolution be amended to include the following: a state-of-the-art septic system with close to zero nitrogen discharge, the understanding that should no one purchase the property, that it will become parkland or revert to its natural state. Additionally, a time limitation on how long this would be available for sale before it is turned into parkland. These points to be written in perpetuity to avoid a replication of the situation we see ourselves in now, should the board change over. We don't want to have to go through this again. A redesign that includes fewer than 22 to 20 units if possible. We feel that the 1.4 acres is too small to accommodate this number, plus parking and a state-of-the-art septic system, so designed to be discussed. Lastly, a town plan that ensures the successful relocation of the current residents. We don't just want to see them dumped, so to speak.
30 seconds.
The last thing we would like to see, not in conjunction with this resolution, because we understand the time frame, is the completion of the town's costly and shelved hotel-motel conversion study and a review of how this particular site is designated.
Maria, just for the record, I just want this restated, just so I'm clear on what you're saying. You're saying that you support the resolution that the supervisor is offering in terms of purchasing through CDA funding because you don't feel that you are going to be successful in not supporting that?
Right. We would rather see it be bought by CPF funds. But as Tommy John said, he reluctantly gave this meeting, but basically everyone seemed, other than you, seems to feel that this is a done deal. You would hold the meeting, but whatever we say didn't really matter.
So you felt like you weren't going to be heard?
Exactly.
Okay.
So in light of that,
That's
these
sad.
are the issues that we would like to see
That's
addressed.
sad.
Okay, thank you, Maria.
Great democracy.
Okay, thank you for your side comments. All right.
You're welcome.
Andrea Spilka?
Hi, good afternoon. Andrea Spilka. I'm president of the Southampton Town Civic Coalition, and I am speaking on behalf of the coalition today. But before I start, I just want to take a second and thank you for your efforts on supporting Eastport with our problem with the monster poles. It's not the full win that we hope for, but it certainly is a win, and we're very grateful. But back to Bel Air Cove. Given the choice between the purchase of a property with questionable market viability under the auspices of the Community Development Authority, and we haven't seen a charter yet for that, and a similarly priced CPF purchase for open space and water protection, we respectfully request that you use CPF funds to purchase the property. We concur with one of our member organizations, the Hampton Bay Civic Association, and I believe there are others in the hamlet, that a more appropriate disposition of the property would be purchased through CPF. And I'm grateful that the CPF committee feels the same way. Sadly, the motel should have been closed due to its years of violations. We're also concerned about rewarding a questionable landlord and hope that in closing the motel that the residents will be relocated to a safe and sanitary housing, and that perhaps there can be more focus on getting rid of landlords who are doing something similar. But most importantly, we strongly believe that a purchase for redevelopment would be contrary to the ultimate climate change protection goal limiting or prohibiting more waterfront development. The property is located on Penny Pond, which has been stated feeds into the Shinnecock Bay. As one of my coalition leaders said, the town redevelops the land, then a good high tide comes in, it's coming, be sure of that, and the town is out all the investment and the residents are displaced. Where's the tax benefit in that? Rather than focus your efforts on redeveloping a property in such a sensitive location, I urge the town to create legislation preventing any new development adjacent to Southampton's surface waters. In addition, while we all appreciate the town's use of the 20% funding for water quality, we believe that our first line of defense should be more stringent zoning and planning. Without better land decisions, you're undermining all of the money being spent to try to reduce the existing pollution in both our drinking and surface waters. And just as an aside, I serve on the Brookhaven Open Space Committee. Given the location here, we've been actively working to purchase any land that's adjacent to these waterways. I think the town should be doing the same thing. And again, for that reason, I urge the town to require that all land decisions be made with an eye toward protecting water quality and our coastline against climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next up is Marilinda Viana.
Good afternoon. I too am in favor of using CPF funds to purchase the Bel Air property, knock it down, and I don't want to see a park there. I just want to go back to nature, okay? Everybody is saying, okay, you take it off the tax rolls. Let's be honest. Anything that's built there is going to put $1 more back into my pocket. It's not going to have any effect on the taxes of Hampton Bays. The big economic advantage is that the school taxes hopefully will be reduced by $500,000. Now, I commend you, Jay, for thinking out of the box and coming up with a plan, but I don't know what the plan is, okay? First of all, the site is not particularly beautiful. You call it waterfront. I call it mudfront, okay? There's not much waterfront there. And, you know, you say, well, it could be a hotel, it could be a motel, it could be a house, it could be condos. I really don't know. What I fear is that it will turn back into affordable housing, and we'll be, 8 years from now, we'll be discussing the same thing. So I just think, I don't have a lot of trust that the town board is going to follow through on this. You all are going to be gone, and we're going to get somebody else in here, and God knows what they're going to do. So I know you spend a lot of money on the east end of the canal. I think it was $10 million you just gave to Sayre Harbor, $4 million for the Lake Agawam. Spend $1 million. Let's take it off the tax roll. Let's end the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ernie Trillo?
Hi, my name is Ernie Trillo. I'm the president of the Old Harbor Colony Property Owners Association. We have 88 homes within a half mile of the Bel Air Motel. We support the purchase of the property with CPF funds and turning it into a park or wetlands. We'd rather see it wetlands. It would improve the quality of water at the bay, and mainly for that reason. We also based on the fact that the CPF funds were used, spending $4 million on a piece of property on Lake Agawam last year, we think spending $1 million for a piece of property similar size in Hampton Bays is more than justified. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ernie.
Next up is Lori Werner.
Hi, my name is Lori Werner. I'm a 46-year-round resident of Hampton Bays in the same house for 43. I'm very, very familiar with the Bel Air Cove Motel. I do a lot of volunteer in my community, and I'm very familiar with the community of Hampton Bays. And our animal shelter has a food pantry. So I've been in the facility many times bringing food over for the people that have dogs in that facility, and it's horrendous. One side of me says we should not buy it for any reason to bail out a greedy, money-hungry, uncaring human being. I think we're setting a precedent doing this, that other greedy, money-hungry, uncaring human beings will say, it doesn't matter what I do, because they can find me. They're not going to close me down, and the town will buy it. That's one side of me. The other side of me feels that it should under no circumstances be used to build condominiums. Ponquag Point is the equivalent of about 4 blocks, maybe, if you're looking at city figuring out. Ponquag Point has sold. One person tells me 1 has sold. One has told me 3 has sold. That property has been like that for over 10 years. It might even be 15. Back in 2008 is when they knocked that down. And they started the building, and nothing happened. And then it laid vacant. You know, Julie, you live in Hampton Bays. And now it's been vacant. Now look at the condition it's in now. Drive by. They're luxury, over $1 million condominiums. They haven't sold. And that's on a better, I don't want to categorize it this way, but that's on more waterfront than this one is. We are not real estate agents. I agree with it if the town does decide to buy it, and I said I still have real ambivalent feelings about it. If they do, I agree with everyone. I think it should be community preservation money, and it should be left either the way it is or it should be made into a pocket park. The other thing, when I speak from my heart and I speak with fashion. For the last, I guess it's now close to 40 years, my profession has been working with the homeless. It's very easy for anyone to sit up here or anyone out here to say they must be relocated. I'll use one word, where? And that's what bothers me also. It really bothers me. I think it's a hellhole. Probably shouldn't say this in public, but I think it is. But there are human beings living in there. And regardless of whether that is zoned for year-round housing or motel housing, it is year-round housing at this point. And you've got more than 20 human beings that have a lot of problems. And there's a lot of not-for-profits trying to relocate people that are much more functional than some of the human beings in that facility. Where are you going to put them? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Ray D'Angelo is next.
Ray D'Angelo from Hampton Bays. Good afternoon. I just want to repeat, like I've written about this several times, and I've been in front of you guys 4 or 5 times about the conditions there. And I agree with the previous. I do feel for these people. That's what's motivated me. However, you know, because they have no other place to go, it doesn't justify to let these people live in the conditions they do. They're residents of the town, and they should be protected by all the codes and regulations that the town has. And the reason why we have these regulations and codes is that when something happens, it's catastrophic. You know, they could have a fire there, they could lose 8 or 9 people, 4 or 5 kids, just like in places of public assembly, very stringent codes, because when we have a fire there, you could lose 30 or 40 people. So for 6 years, for not to enforce these codes and laws, it's outrageous. It's a disgrace. You know, I don't think this guy's ever been fined. I mean, summons have been issued, or NOVs, and then summons should be issued, and it goes to the Justice Court, and nothing ever happens. It's a disgrace. You guys are hiding behind it.
Oh, not true. There are
6 years, how come nothing has happened?
significant
No, it's
fines
not.
have
You've been in office 3 years, and I remember you said that you only been here in August of 2 years ago. I've only been here for 2 years. You got reelected, and then you ran for higher office, and 3 years have passed, and nothing has happened.
That's
Then you've come up
simply
with this
not
plan,
true.
which I feel is, well, this is my.
Well, you haven't read the plan, but that's okay. But the significant fines have been levied against this property. I just wanted to correct the record. I don't want to say the amount, but it is
Obviously
significant.
not enough, because he's still in business. And now we're going to bail him out.
If the attorney
reason why I think
wants to
it's-
state
I
the
think it's
numbers.
you're recklessly optimistic that with your plan. I think it's a Rube Goldberg plan.
Have you read the plan yet? I don't
Yes,
think
I
so,
have.
because it's.
Okay.
it's-
First of all, it
it's going
has
to
to
be
go,
available.
you told me, it's my 3 minutes or not. I mean,
No, that's good.
first of all, we have to start from the beginning.
I'm just trying to correct the record, so.
Okay. First of all, the plan has to go, it's residential. It has to go to zoning and appeals. How do you know that what they're going to vote? Do you know something we don't know? You told me that there's a firewall between you and zoning and appeals. So how would you know what they're going to, they may say, no, you can't do it. Then what's the town going to do with this property? Really? How would you know that? That's my question to you. If there's a firewall between the council and the zoning appeals, which is an unelected board, how would you know how they're going to rule?
Take a look at the plan.
Okay?
It's addressed in there.
I just want, I'm not finished. The other thing is the optics of this. You're putting these people out on the street, and what are we going to do? We're going to build, people are going to profit by building expensive condominiums and a boutique motel. I think at least if you're going to put them on the street and you make it go down to a park, the optics are a little bit better. Really. And I just want to thank, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Councilperson Scalera, not just for this hearing, but listening to the residents of Hampton Bays that have taken the time to address this issue, not only just over the past few months, but for the last 5 years, since, well, the last 3 years that I've been involved. She has been in the trenches with the residents of Hampton Bays, and we do appreciate you immensely. And in closing, I just want to say that when you take into account all the other money you guys have spent at it at CPF, over $15 million went to Sag Harbor, which is half the money that thing takes in a year. I think $1 million is very reasonable to pay for environmentally sensitive property. And again, we do not know the outcome. Suppose they vote against you. You don't know how they're going to come out. Well, maybe you do. And in that case, then there is no firewall. So either way, it doesn't make any sense what you're proposing. Thank you. Oh, by the way, just one more minute. I was just reviewing the 3-minute policy here. And, you know, you're familiar with the Americans with Disability Act, which also you're incumbent on you to make people with disabilities be able to participate in our Jeffersonian democracy. There's people I know that do not come up and speak, and I do. It's very hard for me because I suffer from hyperreactive airway disease and sinusitis and tinnitus. They say tinnitus, but it's pronounced tinnitus. Right now, I can't hear what I'm saying. So for me to come up here and to speak for 3 minutes is very difficult, to be limited to it. And you don't have anything promulgated on any of the websites about people with disabilities and how they can speak here and how they should be given extra time. You should make that available. It's not that you should, it's the law. So I'll be emailing you about that, and we're going to have to work on that. There should be special accommodations. Like I have a close colleague, you know her, Gail Lombardi, who is sighted, and she doesn't come up to speak because of that. So that 3 minutes has got to be amended. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Ray. All right, Robert J.
Okay, thanks for the hearing. I haven't studied your plan, Jay, so I appreciate you trying to come up with something, a new approach. I'd be wary of the town being in the real estate business and developing properties and looking to sell them at a future time. That's, to me, that's a little bit of a jump in what the town council should be focused on. But I haven't studied it, so I guess people here are giving their opinion one way or another. On the face of it, I could see that why people would support it for a CPF purchase. But I came today because I think the elephant in the room, though Ray touched on it a bit, and maybe other people have as well, we have a failed code enforcement system. It's completely failed. I can tell you just from my own experience, and maybe most people here are from Hampton Bays, at least at this portion of the hearing. In Hampton Bays, it's a failed system. I can't speak for other hamlets or villages. Years ago, it was a reason Hampton Bays, and now East Quogue is considering it. There was much discussion about Hampton Bays looking to incorporate. And the main reason was because residents of Hampton Bays feel that the code enforcement system, whatever it is a failed system. Now, I've had a home in Hampton Bays 25 years, and I'm no different than other people. Everyone could come up here and tell you this story, that story, anecdotally, their block, the neighboring block. Whatever the case is, code enforcement does not work, not in Hampton Bays. So you have substantial fines. Ray said it. I don't need to know what the fines are, but they weren't substantial to that owner of the property to get an action. So we have a broken system. The buck has to stop with the 5 of you, I think. It's incumbent upon you to develop a system with the courts, with the attorneys. I'm not sure all the parties involved, but passing the buck, oh, they're getting fined. And I've been to town court. Once it was interesting. I was fighting a parking ticket. But I saw the system. I saw someone come up and, oh, you want to pay your $500 fine or you can pay it in April. I was at a meeting in January. So they were giving that person, oh, you want to pay your $500 now? If not, pay it in April. So it's just the cost of doing business. So we have a failed system. I think that's why, okay, I think that's why Christine asked for this hearing. You have to face the reality and either take some action or sit on your rears and do nothing about it and say we have a system that it's out of our hands, we do this or that. But the reality is we have a broken system. As far as I'm concerned, you can correct me, and if any of you want to speak, please do. I think the buck stops with the 5 of you to make a system that works and is effective and achieves what it's supposed to. Otherwise, we'll be talking about the same issue next year, 5 years, 10 years from now. I hope we don't, but that's the reality of it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard who didn't fill out a yellow card who wishes to be heard on this public hearing? Ma'am?
My name is Gail Shepard. I live in Hampton Bays. I've been a real estate agent for over 40 years. I live in very close proximity to this property. My property adjoins a CPF property. I didn't fill out a yellow card because I didn't think I was going to speak. But listening to everything today, I'd like to bring out three points as a real estate agent, positive and negative on everything that I've heard being discussed. If it goes to be a CPF, the maintenance of it is in question because I do live next to a CPF property that is not maintained bristly. I'm on top of it. I take care of the dumping and things of that nature. I've spoken to Mary tonight. But, you know, people see a vacant land and they throw things. If it's going to be used on CPF funds, and I don't know if this is one of the aspects, as a boat launch, I've heard that, how is that going to be monitored? Are the boats going to be stored there? Is it going to be turned into a boatyard? And where will the parking go? We already have adjoining properties of the station and the hamlet that both have liquor licenses now. And if they are both in the swing of the summer, et cetera, parking becomes a problem. In fact, I believe the station has already gotten some permission for a lease or whatever to use part of town land. If we do the building, which would be the second option, let me go to the condos first. The reason that the condos on Foster Avenue that have been basically vacant for 8 years, or the condition they were, was basically because of money. The developer ran out of money. He didn't know how much it was going to cost to develop at that property, and septic systems, keeping them up to date, And I think he really thought that he had more of a waterfront than he does. He has basically a dry creek in front of him. And the quality of the construction comes in that people will buy if they see a quality built home on a highway. But if they see a poorly built home, even on a waterfront on Meadow Lane, they are not going to buy it because of the construction. So although the idea of having this done by a developer is a plausible one, we don't know who the developer is. We don't know if he's a good developer, a good builder, or what kind of property would be developed. So that is a big mushroom cloud, per se, over this. The third thing is if it were to be a motel, our history with motels in Hampton Bays overall is not very good. And as has been brought up, If it goes to that, and it does bring, and the condos do bring tax revenue to the town, and if they're done small, there's really not going to be an impact on the school. What is the people in Hampton Bays thing that are we going to have full-time housing again? And again, that's, I'm sure everyone in this room does not want. So those are the sides of the coin that I would like you all to agree on. But the one thing I applaud you for is to get rid of that. It hasn't been an eyesore for 5 years. We built our home 19 years ago. It was an eyesore 19 years ago. Allen's Acres was better looking than this place was 19 years ago. So, and that's long gone. So I thank you for this time, and I would be more than happy to give my input privately to anyone on a real estate matter on this, that, as a private citizen, that to really look carefully before a decision is made. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Or is anyone else who has not spoken? Sorry.
I just want to make a point of
We won't be, Ray, come on up, because I can't record you.
They can't take it.
We can't hear you.
We're not doing a round two, but
I deserve it, Tom.
everybody does.
The CDA was mentioned, and I just, as a point of information to the people here, that was vetoed by the governor, that the CDA bill. So the CDA is out. This would be the town exposure, complete exposure of the town buying this. And again, as I said before, you have no idea how the outcome is from the Board of Zoning and Appeals. I keep wanting to say Standing Appeals. That's what it is in the city where I did a lot of work. So I think it's just the optics are a lot better with it being purchased by the community preservation funds. I wish that, I don't see what the rush is to do this. No one else wants to buy it. That was said that we might lose the deal. No one wants to buy this thing. I mean, if, I would never buy it because I wouldn't know the outcome, and neither do you. So I don't understand why we're going forward. I think it's incredibly recklessly optimistic to use town funds to do this. So I urge you all to vote, community preservation funds. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, anyone else? All right, you're the sponsor. What do you want to do with the public hearing?
I would move to close it with a 2-week written comment period.
Okay, there's a motion to close and leave the record open for 2 weeks with, for comment, written comments.
How long would you like to leave?
Just 2 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lofstad. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move to the third public hearing. Madam Clerk?
Public hearing number 3 on the acquisition of lands of McDonald Watermill and amend CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include property.
All right, I'll ask our CPF Director, Mary Wilson, to introduce us.
Daniel McDonald is a purported owner of 3.5 acres of land located on 7 Ponds Town Road in the hamlet of Watermill and further identified by Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-113-1, Lot 21. This property is designated or should be designated in the Wetlands Preservation Target Area of the CPF Project Plan as an appropriate site for preservation. Although the land currently is improved with the home and accessory improvements, the landowner has agreed to remove the structures prior to acquisition by the town of Southampton. This land is surrounded by over 65 acres of preserved farmland, wetlands, and open space, making it a great addition to the assemblage. The landowner has expressed a willingness to sell this land to the town of Southampton at the negotiated purchase price of $1,425,000, and the source of funding would be the Community Preservation Fund.
We have no clerk?
No clerk. Yes, we do.
Oh, there you are.
All right, so all the green area around it is all publicly owned?
Yes, it's all protected, as
And
well as
it's-
this farmland area here.
And there's development on this piece, or
Yes, it's got a house, a studio/garage,
in
and
the
the landowner.
acquisition would include demolishing the structures, or?
The landowner would remove the structures prior to the town acquisition. They've agreed to that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mayor. Was there anyone, oh, I have one person Notice is public hearing 7. I don't have any cards for this. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this hearing is closed. Madam Clerk, the fourth public hearing?
Public hearing number 4 on the acquisition of lands of Miller, North Sea, and amend the CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include property.
Mary?
Mary Ellen Miller is the purported owner of approximately 5.7 acres of vacant land located on Edge of Woods Road in the hamlet of North Sea and further identified by Suffolk County Tax Map Number 998-2, Lot 19.1. This land is designated in the Great Hill Target Area and the Oak Pond to Peconic Bay Trail Target Area of the CPF Project Plan as an appropriate site for preservation. The property would add to 50 acres of protected land in this area. The land also lends itself to a loop trail from an existing trail on nearby town and county lands. The landowner has expressed a willingness to sell this land to the town of Southampton at the negotiated purchase price of $800,000, and the source of funding is a community preservation fund.
Is there development on this or no development?
There's no development on this property.
Is this a landlocked piece or is there access?
There's access from Edge of Woods Roads on its southerly border.
Okay, and again, what's the purchase price?
$800,000.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, anyone else who wishes to be heard on this acquisition? Mary, you say it's not subdividable, right? Single family? 5 acres on it?
Yes, it could support one dwelling because of the extensive wetlands in the northerly area.
Is this being done to lift the development right from it and put it in the Affordable Housing Bank?
Yes, it's going in the bank.
Okay, any other questions for Mary and any other public comment? Questions? All right, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is closed. Sunday, the 5th public hearing?
Public hearing number 5, to consider deleting Town Code Chapter 27, Department of Business Management, Town Management Services Administrator.
Okay, Kathleen Murray, our Deputy Town...
And call 6 together. 5 and 6 should be called together.
Okay, would you also read the 6th public hearing notice, and we'll have them as one hearing?
Public hearing to consider amending Town Code Chapter 72, Town Comptroller, to include additional responsibilities.
All right, Kathleen Murray, our Deputy Town Attorney, is here to introduce us.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good afternoon, members of the Town Board. On November 20th, 2018, by Resolution Number 1087 of 2018, this Town Board adopted the 2019 operating budget for the town. As part of that budget process and based upon recent changes to department staffing, the Town Board eliminated the title Town Management Services Administrator and reorganized those functions and services previously provided under the Department of Business Management into other town departments. Based upon those changes to the budget, Town Code Chapter 27 is no longer applicable. So your first local law in front of you basically deletes the Town Management Services Administrator chapter, and in furtherance of those changes, Town Code Chapter 72, which identifies responsibilities for your town comptroller, has also been amended to just 1, delete a reference to the Town Management Services Administrator, and 2, to include the oversight of the town's risk management program under your town comptroller. If the board is so inclined, there are 2 resolutions of adoption for your consideration on the agenda later today. Are there any questions?
Any questions from Ms. Murray? Okay, thank you, Kathleen. I have no cards. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on either public hearing 5 or public hearing number 6? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
This is a motion to close both public hearings, seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so,
I need you to close them individually.
close them individually? All right, so that, can we make that first one the
Yes.
first public hearing, and then same motion, same second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
I'm
you.
closing the second. Okay, Sunday, if you'll read public hearing number
Absolutely.
7.
Public hearing number 7, to consider amending Town Code 330-202 of Article 22, signs, changing the extended amortization date for signs to be in compliance to January 1st, 2021.
Is there anyone from the town who's introducing this?
Where's
somebody
from building or planning should be?
We do have one card. Basically, this gives, I think, 2 more years to comply with a law that was passed a number of years ago that would said that non-conforming signs would be sunsetted, they'd be eliminated over time. I think we reached that deadline, I think, this month. With the new year, this gives an additional 2 years to examine the issue and decide what the best course of action is. Is that about right, Jim?
Yeah. Yes.
Or Councilman Scavone?
I could say some more on
Go
this.
ahead, Tommy.
Our sign law was originally created in 2006, and the idea was to give businesses 5 years, or really anyone who had a sign out in front of their properties, to come up to code. 2011 came, we extended the amortization until 2015, and it was extended again, and here we are in 2017. We are proposing to extend it for 2 years, and in that time, we want to come to some definitive end game for signs in Southampton Town. This was put on our agenda back in November, is that correct? For a longer amortization period, and was pulled back, and so we did this in December to give these businesses another 2 years to comply.
And some businesses may have sought relief through the zoning board in that period?
Yeah, there's a number of businesses who have, when you amortize a sign, you register with the town and say, we know our sign's out of compliance, and we're putting in the paperwork, and we're hopefully going to work on it. There were a number of businesses that brought their signs into compliance. There is in the hundreds. There are also other businesses who have sought variances for their signs, and now those signs are legal on those properties. And then there are those signs that are still amortized that have not been brought up to code. We also, we're pretty sure that there's quite a few signs out there that have not amortized and do not conform with the code. So I believe that we need a couple of years to take a look at this to, I called it an end game, but to come up with some kind of code revision to definitively settle this amortizing situation in our code with signs.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have one card on this. Camden Ackerman.
Hi, my name is Camden Ackerman. I'm from West Hampton. I'll be really brief. I think Tommy John summed that up pretty well. For predating this current board, there was a piece of legislation passed that, as an advocate for businesses in Southampton, feel didn't take into effect negative implications on existing businesses. I thank the town board for bringing this up. I hope that it's approved, and I'd really love to discuss possibly a permanent solution to this or something in the future. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Camden. Okay, anyone else who wishes to be heard on this public hearing? Public hearing number 7. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so with that,
That's a voice throw. Voice.
was it? I heard them both at the same time. Who's my second?
Doesn't matter. It's John.
John.
You got it. It's fine.
It doesn't matter. Who do you have as the second?
I had Christine, but then changed it because you called John.
I was right.
All right, make it,
It's because she was loud and I heard her first.
make it Christine, okay? So,
Make it so.
did we say all in favor? Aye. So we're,
Aye.
all right, that public hearing is closed. All right, we're going to move on to public portion. I have a number of cards. Individuals will be afforded 3 minutes to make their comments known. The first speaker is Laura Nigro.
It's like E.T. is coming. I hear something going off.
Just, you can hand it to the town clerk.
Clerk.
That's an easy one to miss.
Thank you.
So I have a couple of comments. Laura Nigro, I'm a longtime resident of Tuckahoe, went to Tuckahoe School. My dad was a councilman. He actually blocked billboards being built here, and he also tried to prevent the building of motels in the area that he realized in the winter would turn into housing and create issues for the town. So he was doing that back in the 70s. They called him Dr. No. So I'm calling, it's about Tuckahoe School District and Tuckahoe new builds. New builds in Tuckahoe are assessed at a very high rate. Like Tuckahoe's taxes for schools is 7.14% versus 2.16 for a town for the taxes for the schools. So it's almost 3 times or more than 3 times as much taxes for the houses in Tuckahoe or properties. So the new builds, especially the fields, that used to be basically farmland that had 0 tax for the town or for Tuckahoe. Now there are about 28 houses going up there, and maybe 2 have sold. And the reason why, when I show the houses as a real estate broker, people do not want to buy and pay the higher taxes, which are about $29,000 to $30,000 for a half-acre property. So only 2 have sold. I propose that for new construction in Tuckahoe, or even Hampton Bays, because Hampton Bays is, what, 15% for your school taxes? That maybe we do some sort of amortization with the taxes.
Taxes are at 13%.
13. Amortization for the taxes for new construction. Let's say most of these people who buy these homes are second home users who will not have children in Tuckahoe School. So why don't we say you go in, you pay the Southampton town rate to start, the 2.16, and then you amortize the rate to bring it up to the level of the district for maybe the next 10 years. That would maybe, so that more houses and more people would be added to our rolls, and then in the 10 years, maybe then our overall tax rate could come down a little bit. Will we have more people buying into the area? Because I find that as a realtor, when I show the homes in Tuckahoe or Hampton Bays, like, oh my God, the taxes, I'll just buy in the town, I can pay a lot less. So I propose that maybe you as a community can get together and come up with some sort of incentive for new construction and for buyers of new construction in these areas where we have the higher school taxes.
If I could make just a quick comment or two, and I know there's been efforts in the past to consolidate Tuckahoe School.
Which they
with
won't do
Southampton,
it, they just won't do it.
Hasn't done, and I don't think that should be abandoned. I think they should continue to
I
look
think
at
so
that.
too.
The built houses, even though they're not sold, they're owned by somebody, so they are
Correct.
paying property
They are paying
taxes.
property taxes, but there will,
But it may be
they've only built
discouraging.
5 homes, but there's 28 scheduled, so is he going to abandon them? Will he go bankrupt? What will happen if he doesn't able to
But they
sell
are,
them?
I just wanted to make sure you understood that those are
No,
on
I
the tax
understand.
rolls.
I
And
understand
I
that.
understand your point that it may be discouraging new buyers.
Correct.
But the school isn't losing out on tax
No,
revenue.
I
just wanted-
understand-
The
I
other thing
understand
I just
that.
wanted to point out too, and although I like your idea, that something like that kind of phasing in of taxes would have to be authorized by New York State.
Right, well, maybe
We
you
can't do
could
that
work,
on our own.
maybe you could work that.
I'm actually working with Assemblyman Thiel right now for a different situation, but it has the same ramifications in terms of the tax base and the rates and trying
Correct.
to have something either like a homestead thing and for people who are on a fixed income that are being
Correct.
priced out because so what you said was an interesting concept and certainly worth exploring.
Because we do want to promote new build in certain areas so that we can bring in new, either students that go to school, and most of these are second homes or aren't students, to bring in people who will pay to the tax roll that aren't the developers, but actually people who are living in the community. And another note on the other issue that was the motel, Bel Air. Why, with all these fines and everything, why don't you just condemn these places and then take them over as, with an eminent domain, to take over these places that are not, listening to you and not following code. There has to be a way so that the owner is not given this money for running a flea motel, that. You should just find a way to condemn and do eminent domain. I mean, if there ever was a cause or reason to do it, that would be a reason.
If I could comment there too, so, in terms of what the owner would yield from a sale, it's the same whether it's a CPF sale or whether it's the sale under the urban renewal plan.
Well, what about eminent
But
domain
eminent domain,
and condemnation?
Eminent domain, you don't really know what the price is going to be.
But can you condemn his property?
But the money would go to him.
Right, but can you condemn the property?
The town always has the ability to utilize eminent domain if they so choose in circumstances.
But can it be condemned? Can you condemn it?
Well,
You'd have to, that'd be a question.
you need a
You'd have to go
valid
through the
public
process.
purpose, and it's.
But to condemn it, not eminent domain, not to buy it, but can you condemn the
Oh,
property?
eminent domain is
In this-
condemnation.
in this-
Condemnation is.
Condemnation, eminent
you-
domain,
can
are
you
the same
condemn
thing.
it?
We're dealing with, right now, with a willing seller.
Mhm.
And the state created at the local level urban renewal powers specifically, primarily to address slum-like conditions and blighted conditions. It's a tool that it's not always used, but it's one that municipalities have the right to go that route. When you have a willing seller, that's something that you can do. You don't
Well, what about
need
the
to
other
use eminent domain
the other motels in our area that I have a friend who's a fire captain, and he goes in and there's atrocious living conditions with burners and stoves and cooktops and that is very dangerous. And it's not just a Bel Air, it's many other motels in the area. I mean, and nothing's done on those because everyone's afraid of displacing the people that are there. So how do you fix it?
Well, please, if you know of unsafe conditions, please
Well,
make
the
sure
fire
that-
department goes all the time. You should talk to the captains and the people in the fire department.
Because we do have an ordinance enforcement division that does enforce public health and safety regulations.
The fire department gets called many times, and you really need to talk to them.
It should be also understood that not all of these properties that may be thought of as hotels are CO'd as hotels. Some may actually be apartments.
That's
And
true.
I'd just like to say that our code enforcement does go out on a regular basis to not only hotels, but overcrowded houses, and does
Correct.
look into the health and safety things that they
It's difficult.
work hard
It's
to do
really
so.
difficult to manage that.
As well as our fire marshal's office, too. It examines any type of
Yeah,
report
they-
of
they
unsafe
go and it's-
conditions, fire marshals.
But then it just goes right back, so,
I would hope there's a coordination between the fire department and our fire marshal's office, and I believe,
I would-
we encourage that, many of them are firefighters themselves.
Yes.
And so they should be aware of these situations. yeah.
But I really do think we need to help new builds in certain areas where the taxes are high, where they're like, oh, why am I going to buy in Tuckahoe? Why will I buy in Hampton Bays? I might as well buy in Southampton Town when my taxes are lower. So it really does prohibit builders from building in these areas, because like, why am I spending the money if I can't sell it, And so we don't get new builds.
So and I'll just do my last comment, but some of our efforts have been to increase the amount of tax rateables in some of those areas without putting additional kids into the school system, to help lower those property taxes to,
Okay.
make it more attractive for people to buy homes in those areas.
Well, let's see if we can do a little more.
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Laura.
Thank you.
All right, Vince Teldon?
Which card? Is it my topic?
You were going to speak on CDBG program projects.
Okay. I'll start there
You've
first.
forgotten even.
I have two in there.
okay.
Vince Taldone from Flanders. I was here once before in December, but our board, the Flanders Riverside Northampton Community Association membership hasn't met yet. We meet on Monday. So I'm really not authorized to say anything more than what I already said, but I wanted to repeat it. I've been going through the history of the Community Development Block Grant Program to kind of try to understand how the town is taking Community Development Block Grant money and doing kind of a reverse Robin Hood, in my opinion, taking it from the poor to spend it on the rich. The town has a history of trying to do these things. But this year's effort is to do renovation work at Southampton Town Hall in one of the richest communities on earth, rather than making a children's park in Flanders, the only children's park in Flanders, accessible to the disabled. I don't understand how you make choices like that, and I understand I've been told by Diana Weir and others that it's legal, that an ADA compliance matter can be resolved with community development money anywhere in the town. It doesn't have to be in the part of the town that got you the money in the first place. But then I go back to ancient history when Democrats and Republicans voted together, and President Ford signed the bill in 1975, and I don't have time to go through lots and lots of comments, but one of the intentions, the main intention, was that this would help to extinguishing poverty and urban blight. Extinguishing poverty and urban blight. And I know our town attorney's probably cringing because there have been other expansions of what it can be used for, but that was his original intention, not to do a renovation at Town Hall in Southampton. I mean, it should be embarrassing to be spending money here. This building is accessible. You've changed the security arrangements. You want to change the accessibility. I, as a person with a disability, cheer improving accessibility. I'm happy to take whatever it is out of my tax dollars and contribute it because the whole town uses Town Hall. So I'm all for making it better. I don't disagree with the project. I just don't see how it, in a competitive sense, beats out impoverished areas that need help, children who can't get into the park without this road work being finished. We had applied for it. Everyone thought it was a great idea, except you diverted the money to Town Hall. We even found a way of doing it for less than what Alex Greger would do it for, so that we could actually get it done this year with that money. But anyway, that's all I have. I mean, last time you heard me go through all of this, I haven't talked to anybody else in Town Hall. Probably a bad meeting to have gone to right before the holidays. But on Monday, we do have our meeting, and I do have to bring this up to the membership. There may be nothing legally that we can do, but as you know, and I appreciate all the comments you've made about the hard work we do to raise money through grant programs. Then to see our hard work, and I don't get paid for my hard work, it's what I do because I love my community, then to see the town take money we got because it is a low-income area and spending it on Town Hall, on Hot Dog Beach. I think Anna Thron-Holst wanted to raise Dune Road because I'm sure there are $10 and $20 million houses that they get their feet wet when they go out into the street. I mean, there's so many ways of diverting money to other uses that aren't necessarily bad ideas, but that money was never intended to be used to improve facilities in affluent places. It was always intended to eliminate blight and fight poverty. I don't know how this helps that.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. I do understand some instances and why the law is flexible enough to allow you to do this. Because there are communities upstate, in particular, I think of New York, where industry's left, the town doesn't even have the money to fix their town hall and make it accessible. So they turn to community development, and even though there aren't the poorest people living right around town hall, that's the only money they have, and that they need that help to make it accessible. And I cheer them. But you can hardly say that in Southampton. Your budget can't fit that extra $40,000. I don't know what you're spending on the renovation. I'm sure it's multiples of that. So I hope you just decide against that and allow our project to move up and make that park accessible to children.
Thank you, Vince.
Thanks,
Well,
You have another card.
Oh, that's right.
I was going to say, have a seat so I can call you.
So I can call me again.
All right.
And thank you for letting me speak twice, because it's two separate issues, and I don't want to come on two separate nights or afternoons. The other one is actually an interesting one. When I was here the last time, I really had no idea the accessory apartment law was coming up that day for amendments to encourage housing. I have an accessory apartment. It's fully permitted. I built it when I built my house. I did have to go through a ZBA hearing. There were expenses related to that. But by and large, I was building the house at the same time. Others in the neighborhood who I know could easily convert and make their houses accessible, convert it for an accessory apartment, have constantly told me, well, I don't want to pay all that extra tax money. And I said, well, it's really not that bad, because this town does not tax accessory apartments like a two-family home. It's just extra living space. You'll pay some more, but you're going to bring in all this rent. No one ever paid attention to me because they just didn't believe it. They thought they were going to be taxed up the wazoo. And someone got up, I think an advocate for housing, and said, why don't you consider, waiving the taxes for some, I think he said indefinitely, but even a phase-in or an abatement for 10 years or so, and I know that requires state legislation. But some way to tell people, if you do this, if you go through all the expenses of bringing your house up to code and building that accessory apartment, you won't be paying more taxes for some period of time. I'm not a big fan of free rides in any way, but if you want to incentivize people going through the agony of trying to comply with the affordable housing, the accessory apartment laws, they probably will end up, in most cases, going to the ZBA. You might even say, well, waive the fee, provided you accept this covenant for the affordability levels that you want in perpetuity. Because even that's $1,000 just for the application, never mind the surveyor who's going to do the drawing and everything else. So, there's a lot of things you can do without making the lot smaller and smaller. I mean, you've gone down to half acre, I think that's great. But at a point, you're going to run out of possibilities, and people who could take advantage even of the 30,000 square foot minimum are not, because of all the complications and perceived costs. The extra tax I got for my accessory apartment is very reasonable. I knew what it was before I built. You get the assessor will gladly give you an estimate. It's usually pretty close. And it actually surprised me how, I shouldn't say this, how it was not that much more,
30
considering my rent income from that apartment, and well worth my while to go through all the steps. But I can't convince anybody else in the neighborhood that that's the truth. So I think you need some way of reaching people to tell them that the costs will not be unbearable if they convert or try to legalize, let's say, an illegal use. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Vince. Good point. All right. Frank DeVito? Come on up. Good afternoon, everybody.
I'm here as a builder in the area. We do some custom houses, some spec houses. And I have 2 big houses in the Tuckahoe School District. One of them, when we first completed, we were told our tax basis was $66,000 a year from a vacant piece of land. So after adjustments and talking to the town, it came down to 38. We're at 39,000 now. We're losing buyer after buyer on this house. It's a great house. Lo and behold, I built another house in the village, but it falls into Tuckahoe. And I get hit with a $34,000 on a half-acre piece of property. We took a house down that was falling down. It wasn't much to take it down. There was many people living in the house. Cleaned up the nice area and built a good, vacation home for somebody. Same story, buyer after buyer, nobody wants to pay. I have a house on the other side of the village, right by your house, Jay, that I'm paying $8,800 a year in taxes, same size lot. How do you justify Tuckahoe with 400 kids in the school charging taxes like that? So it can't just be school taxes. So I look, 50% of, Tuckahoe area is golf courses, is untaxable area, taken out for parkland, taken off the tax roll. So now we're burdening the homeowners, the developers, everybody into these astronomical taxes. Now, like I said, it can't just be the school because there's 400 kids. I mean, I could put them in private school for what I'm paying for 2 houses. So it's got to be, is it the roads? Like, what other burdens do we have there that 4 times? I went from the house on Bishop, I was paying $6,200 when I bought that house. Now I'm paying $34,000. I was shocked. And on the story, the buyer came to me. We had an offer and acceptance. He asked, why didn't I disclose it? I said, no, that's the wrong house. That's my house in Shinnecock Hills. He says, no, 230 Bishop Lane. So I lost him. He got a house right on White Street, $10,000. I now am offering people, if you buy my house, I'll pay half of your taxes for the first 3 years or until I can help you grieve it and bring it down. One of the reasons why I'm here. But I'm trying to incentivize there, but I can't justify in my mind, and I'm sure there is reason. No one's getting rich off of the Tuckahoe taxes, but
30 seconds.
there were reasons why we're taxed so high over there, you know? I know you've been trying to merge the school, I know things are, but it can't just be the school, it's got to be the roads, it's got to be something. So hopefully he's to do something about this.
Just like, you know, the roads and the town services, that's, you know, it's the same throughout.
Correct.
The property you have in the village is probably paying about the same in dollars as it would be in Tuckahoe for the highway department. So it's spread out based on assessed valuation. But within a school district, that house in the village is part of a different school district that happens to have a lot of second homes that are worth a lot of money that, you know, are helping keep the taxes down for, within the school district. Tuckahoe doesn't have the same equation because, you know, that tax boundary is a different boundary.
It's all golf courses, college,
Yeah,
parkland.
I know there's some effort to
50%
look at the way golf
untaxable.
courses are assessed. Or to make some more money into the school district from, you know, non-property tax revenues. All those things I think are being looked at.
Well, it is one of those things, if you lower the taxes a little and development comes in and work comes in and you create more secondary homes there, you will have sales, you know, you will bring in more revenue.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, last card, Peter Callow Gray.
Hello, my name is Peter Calabrius. I'm a resident of Tuckahoe and a local builder in Tuckahoe for the last 45 years. And I'm here to address some comments that Frank just made and Laura about the high cost of taxes, specifically on new builds. There's an aggressive tax policy at place, and the new builds are being taxed roughly 50% higher than any other existing house in the area, simply because they're new. And it takes time for that value of that house to assimilate to the values of the other properties. But they're being singled out as new builds and being taxed very aggressively and make them less attractive to buyers. Now, with the pending building of the hospital at the Stony Brook University, the board has to think about the future. You're going to be spending $300 million to build a facility, and who's going to work in that facility? Doctors and nurses and staff. Where do they want to live? Close by. Just like in Stony Brook University down in Stony Brook, well, the doctors live within a proximity, so they can answer emergency calls, make it convenient, less travel time, less congestion. What is the town going to do to make it so that there's affordable housing? You're going to have to build new houses because there's not enough, or improve houses, and they're going to come in and look at the tax rate and go, wow, I got a great job, but the taxes are making it unattractive. So between a combination of an aggressive tax policy and the constant reassessments of 2 years that not every town does, you're putting a burden on the people in general in Tuckahoe. You're making it so that the builders who are investing, the average build, Frank, myself, others, we spend about $2 million a house in local money spent. And there's probably a ton of us. That's $20 million a year. So if a town was coming in, someone was coming to the town and had a business, and they said, listen, I want to open up a store and I want to hire 50 people, help me out. You would do some kind of relaxing of the regulations, maybe do some tax abatements, do something to attract local industry. Well, we're the biggest industry there is in this town. We hire hundreds and hundreds of people and broaden the tax base. So there's got to be some kind of remedy for the taxes in Tuckahoe. And again, as Frank mentioned, 50% of the land of the area is either at a low tax rate or a non-tax rate. So there's a burden being put on the local residents that's unbearable. And you're losing quality people, you're losing longtime residents, they're moving, and all the land preservation in the town, it doesn't save the people, put the land aside for a second. Save the people, save the culture, save the workers, save the students. So you have to look at what's happening in Tuckahoe, and it's, it's part of Southampton, it's right here, it's down the block, and take a look at what's wrong with the situation and address it in any which way you can. But specifically, new bills and the way they're being assessed as opposed to the regular properties have to be taken a closer look at.
I'd like to comment on a couple of points, one that you made and one that you made. And I think it's important to note, Tuckahoe, your total tax base, this is what the school can tax people to run their operations. The tax base of Tuckahoe is $2,626,770,000. And a lot of times it gets compared to Southampton School District, which is over $26 billion in tax base. So in many of the districts east, they are subsidized by the second homeowners. What you say makes a lot of sense to me. I'm happy that you're here. I agree with you. CPF has purchased a lot of land in Tuckahoe, and looking at the pilot payments for community preservations, Tuckahoe is not on that. So I think that's an important point for this area and other areas as well.
All right, thank you. But and again, I speak to a lot of people in the area, and they don't have any long-term plans to stay because they had a house that maybe had a $2,000 tax rate. They get a next tax bill, it's $4,000, then it doubles again, and it doubles.
And the
so
market
imagine at
value
the
is-
federal level, if any tax that the federal government imposed on us doubled, there'd be anarchy. So we're getting tax bills without notice. They don't know if people have an extra $10,000 that year, so the tax will go from $10,000 to $20,000. And people look at, and they ask around, East Hampton does it like we do? No, actually, they don't. They don't reassess at the same level we do.
We're the only town that's at 100%.
Well, it's 100%. It's every 2 years. It's very aggressive. And if a business was doing this and spiking the interest rate or their policies, you'd say, wow, that's not fair. It's not fair to be so aggressive, and it's every 2 years, and people that live with a level of uncertainty that should not be part of the culture of living in this town.
I think what's really impacting you more so than the CPF stuff, because it doesn't Tuckahoe wouldn't qualify for the pilot payments, would be the golf courses. I mean, you have and there's perhaps something to that in that if we can distinguish Tuckahoe from other areas, because when you start getting involved with state legislation and trying to change it, it becomes a sticky wicket because what affects downstate may not affect the same way upstate, and you've got a lot of upstate lawmakers that have to be on board. But if we can perhaps, because like I said, I was working with Assemblyman Thiel, maybe come up with something that is really kind of unique to the area in which you are in. There might be one other one upstate that is close to that with the amount of golf courses you have within a certain proximity, and perhaps provide some relief that way. We can try and look at that as a mechanism. But it's a great discussion to have.
Well, there's a balance there. And I'm not one to say just because I want my taxes low to raise someone else's. That's not just fair. So the golf courses provide an ambiance to the area, they provide some jobs, and they have a tax rate. And you don't want to raise it because you don't want development because that creates another
I'm
problem.
not suggesting raising theirs, I'm just saying.
So I'm just saying, so again, like you said, so if we have to compensate for lack of tax base, then the town should say, listen, these guys are bearing the burden for this great open space. Compensate us in some degree. Or stop doing the 2-year reassessments. Or, as Laura said, phase in the new bills. Because if you sell one house for X dollars and you tax it at that rate, it doesn't mean that it's worth that much. They're supposed to take an assessment, how do you say, try doing assessments like a bank would. Take a look at all the comparables and assess them like a bank would. Say, well, you can't get that kind of money because there's no other house that's worth that kind of money. But the town's going, wow. And they're using Zillow sometimes. So, be fair on the assessments, and I think that's the fastest, most immediate way to accommodate some of the problems. And keep the builders working and keep them spending money. We supply the builders, the lumber yards, the delis, the tradesmen, the tax base. We bring a tremendous amount of money and opportunity to this town. And I don't think we're respected in the sense that the value of what we bring and the investment and the risk that we take. So it's something that should have some kind of level of accommodation, all right?
Peter, you're saying that the properties are overassessed at the start, at the building permit stage, or
They're-
CO? By that time, they're
in the
already
middle of a
overassessed?
building stage, they'll go from vacant land to a almost finished level and then jumped again. This is before it's even sold.
Right, right.
It is while you're just working and it's just hitting you.
But you're-
It's not even wait till it's finished.
But you're thinking that number, that final assessment number at CO is unrealistic?
It is 50% higher than anything in the area and 50% higher than anything in the other part of the town.
Yeah. All right.
The local bills versus, other areas.
When we continue that conversation, we can always sit down with the assessor and talk about this. if you have to do it.
Absolutely,
Is it
I'll
no-
write my comments and send them in because there's a lot more to be said.
Is the
in a
number,
short amount of time.
is the value that it's assessed at more than what the sales price is?
It hasn't even sold. Properties haven't
No,
even
but in terms
sold.
of what you're marketing it for.
The assessments are at par with what we hope to get.
Okay.
But you don't know that
You
yet.
don't know yet.
The sale has.
So it's very aggressive pricing.
There's no true market.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that number at that stage, it just is dissuading someone perhaps who wants to buy it because they'll take other things into consideration, the value of the house, the proximity
Sure.
to New York, all that. But you're fighting, an uphill battle because, again, it's stigmatizing the property unduly at an aggressive rate and an aggressive time period.
Have you grieved any of those taxes?
I'm grieving, I have been grieving, yes.
Yeah,
It
'cause
hasn't been
there
resolved
certainly is a
yet.
process if you feel your property is assessed at a higher value than the true value, and we try to assess that true value, and to be fair to everyone.
However,
Not to cut you off, Jay, we're told with commercial is, with developers, we're selling the house, so we can't grieve, we're not owners.
You can
You
grieve.
can. You just have to do an Article 7 instead of a SCAR, but yeah, you can still do it. Yeah.
contrary to, we're being assessed at 100% of the present value. Going back to when there was a recession and the properties plummeted by 50%, the tax rates did not reflect that. It's always been like a win-win-win-win-win for the town. And that's creating a big burden. So either the costs have to come down, you have to somehow find a way to distribute the expenses, get some subsidies, but there's not a 5-year window for this, especially with the hospital coming in.
Sure.
You really have the biggest opportunity to put more employment in the town, and they have to live someplace. Otherwise, you have to start setting up commuter trains for the locals, so there's no congestion. Well, there's opportunities right there. And you won't get all this relief through affordable housing because there's not that much land left to do 20% of what you're doing as affordable housing.
Right.
So the best way to do it is to take care of the people that are there now, let them do their accessory apartments, and make the taxes something manageable, or less aggressive, or don't raise them every 2 years like we're doing. Because that's the biggest killer. Let people, come back every 5 years, every 6 years, let them build up to it. And then give them notice and say, listen, your taxes are going to be raised. Be prepared, save some money, don't go on vacation, whatever it is, as opposed to just getting a tax bill that people get, they're shocked. They're shocked. Nothing else in their portfolio goes up like our taxes. So.
Right, and particularly those people who are on fixed incomes, seniors who've done nothing to the house, but the area goes up, their taxes go up, and they don't have enough money to pay those.
And they have to, if they're in that certain area, they have to put the new septic system in. Go ahead, go tell someone who's 65 years, 70 years old, you need $30,000 and you got to do this paperwork to do a septic system. They're like, I'm out of here. Or they're not going to comply with the law. So you have to do something so people want to be part of the community at a
Thank you,
participate. All right? Thank you.
You're gonna have to come up. We're being filmed and broadcast live on TV, not to make you nervous, but
All over the world.
but without you going there, the folks at home can't hear you.
When the US Open, did the town reap any benefits of the US Open, any taxes, anything with all the extra police and all the extra pain with the US
I'm
Open?
not sure about reaping benefit.
Did they get any tax money? Did
The
they
bulk
get
of our costs for additional policing was covered by that event. The town is funded through property taxes, as has been.
Correct.
we get some other revenues, but primarily property taxes. An event like that generates a lot of sales tax revenue. It helps the state and the county,
Okay,
but not
the town. Can any way that the town can somehow reap some benefits of something as large as as a US Open or some other thing that happens that impacts our community so much?
Some people in the
I had
town
so much
rented,
trouble-
we relaxed the rental code so
Right,
that people
but
could rent their
that's-
homes, but
The
individuals, the town government
The town
itself.
didn't get anything.
Well, businesses within the town. do.
Businesses, well, but no, people didn't want to come into the town, there's too much traffic, so the town actually lost business.
There were
We don't
winners
have a
and-
taxing mechanism
there
to
were
do
winners
that. It
and
really
losers, but-
didn't work out so well.
For some it did, and some it didn't.
Yeah, but I think that needs to be reassessed of how the town can more benefit from something like a large-scale US Open or something like that.
We get some fees, like for special permit fees, special event fees, but they typically just cover our costs.
That's what it's supposed, we don't have a taxing mechanism to do that, because anything above what we earn, what we expend and collect
But
back is the tax.
then these golf courses don't pay the taxes, yet they have this huge thing there that impacts our whole community of Tuckahoe. When they're there, you know, you need to, we need to
Fortunately,
deal
you
with it.
probably got some prestige in Tuckahoe for that golf course, which probably pushed the property values up even more, so.
That's what happened.
No, but
So-
that doesn't, you know.
So it probably hurt in that way by making the area more valuable. And having a brand-new modern hospital is likely to increase property values again a little bit. Not likely to increase the workforce. I know the last gentleman talked quite a bit about the workforce, because a lot of the people already working at the hospital, they'll continue to work at the new hospital. I don't know if it's much larger than the current hospital, or how many more people it'll employ, but.
But I know that Hampton Bay's taxes and Tuckahoe taxes, we really need to help out the communities, you know?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, that's the last card. Thank you all for those comments. You want to speak in public portion? Sure. Anybody who did not fill out a card who wishes to be heard in public portion? Mr. D'Angelo?
Okay, I just want to speak quickly about accessory apartments. And I know that you basically wanted to keep Hampton Bays out of the accessory apartments that we were discussing, I think, before the holidays. But the problem is that the Board of Zoning, I keep wanting to say Board of Standard
Board of
Appeals, but
Appeals.
zoning appeals.
ZBA.
Zoning Board of Appeals. Some
Okay,
people call
the
it
city
Board of Zoning
standard
Appeals,
appeals.
yeah.
Is they approve all the applications practically in Hampton Bays. And my question is, does the assessor reassess all these approvals? I mean, basically, they make them a two-family house, and they have, they have children, they go to school, and the biggest part of our tax bill is the school district. Now, before I came here today, I was at the senior center, because I go on Wednesdays, no, today's Tuesday, on Tuesdays. And on my, there's this man, he's 86 years old, I won't use his name, he lives in Red Creek. And for the last 3 weeks, he's been in a panic, because his taxes went up $700. And he doesn't know how to pay for it. He's on a limited income. I mean, this is terrible, what we're doing to seniors, which I'm one of, but fortunately, I can't pay. I live in Hampton Bays, so our tax bills are horrific because of the school. I know why our tax bills are high. And these accessory apartments, again, by an unelected board, they approve almost I think the approval rate's like 97% or 96%. So you guys are elected. We can vote you out if we don't like what you're doing. But we have no control over these guys. And this is why, again, I think I spoke at the water hearings, East Quogue wants to have a village because they have no control over this. And we don't have a village. We can't, getting back to that, we can't apply for grants. We didn't get any of the, CPF money for water projects. Zippo we got, except for for that trial thing about the bulkheads with the,
PRB.
yeah, okay. We didn't get that, but that was a very small plan. We don't have the facilities to apply for this. Flanders Civic Association does apply for it. They do write requests for grants. Our Civic Association doesn't do that. That's not their mission really, but they don't. So I really want to know, what are we going to do about this? I feel that we should change the format of this government. We should have direct districts or wards, not at-large voting. And we can do that. Elected officials can call for a referendum on the question of moving from at-large to a district voting, and voters can approve a change to the method of election through a referendum. And I think that we should form a committee, and we should look into this, because the way it is now, it's unfair. It's unfair. First of all, Hampton Bays has a large Latino community. Almost 80% of the students in the school are Latino. There isn't that one Latino representative on the school board. You guys can look to your left and right. There's no Latino or African Americans on this board. So that would be one basis for a lawsuit. And the other is an economic. This town is controlled by the wealthy sections of the town, which are the villages. Again, Hampton Bays is right behind Flanders in socioeconomic problems.
30 seconds.
And we don't have the money. I get extra time because I'm disabled. So, again, I urge you, maybe you should form a committee and hit this thing head on before we go to a lawsuit. Really, because I think you're going to lose. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Teresa?
Speaking of taxes.
Speaking of taxes.
Speaking of tax,
I want to remind people.
I did actually hear the conversation on the TV, but I just wanted to make a quick statement about first half taxes because the due date is on January 10th. Sorry, I have a cold, so pardon me. Just want to remind all of the residents of the town that the first half of property taxes are due on Thursday, January 10th. You can call my office if you haven't gotten your bill, 631-702-2470, or go to the town website, southamptontowny.gov, and you can pay online, get your copy of your bill online, etc., and plenty of more information. That's it. Little PSA. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Anyone else on taxes or any other subject? All right, I will make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so public portion is closed. We'll move to the agenda. First resolution, 1029 of 2018, authorizes the acquisition of the property located at 20 Shinnecock Road, Hampton Bays, New York, for the purposes of community development. I'll make a motion to table to the next meeting, seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 2018-1053, the revisions to the rules of operations for CACs. I'm going to actually withdraw that based on the revisions that the town attorney is doing. I think it's a better course of action, and I will bring to you and as well as the CACs when we have something to give.
Okay.
So, withdrawn.
Resolution 1202 of 2018, I am actually going to be, in light of the walk-on packet, which adds, we're all going to be doing something jointly to do this, and I'm really happy about that, so I will withdraw this in light of that, hopefully moving forward.
Okay,
That's 1202.
Yes.
1206 of 2018, resolution of adoption authorizing an amendment of Town Code 330-11A, accessory apartments, and Town Code Chapter 270, rental properties, to provide for additional affordable housing throughout the town. Is the written period comment over?
You don't have secret done now.
Yeah, secret is outstanding.
The secret is still outstanding. Okay, I'll make a motion to table. Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
So that's tabled to the next meeting, Sunday.
Yes, thank you. January 22nd.
Resolution 2019-40, authorization for the supervisor to sign application and contract to accept 2019 Suffolk County Youth Bureau funding for Southampton Town Youth Program.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Resolution 41 of 2019 is bond resolution for $75,000 for improvements to the town-owned police headquarters.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera.
You gotta do a roll
Oh,
call.
I'm sorry, this is a bond. We need to do a roll call vote.
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes?
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Okay, so the bond is approved. Okay, this will also be a roll call. 42 of 2019, bond resolution for $75,000 for improvements to various parks, playgrounds, or recreational area facilities.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes?
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Aye.
That is approved. Number 43 of 19, bond resolution $75,000 for acquisition of vehicles and equipment for construction and maintenance purposes. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call.
Aye. Oh, sorry.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. 4 yeses and an aye.
And an aye.
Be different.
All right, 44 of 2019 bond resolution for $100,000 for the construction or reconstruction of sidewalks.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad. Roll call.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Aye.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
All right, approved. Number 45 of 19, bond resolution, $150,000 for the reconstruction or replacement of existing bulkheads constructed of steel, stone, concrete, or wood.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad. That's not see-through still.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Yes?
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
Approved. All right, number 46 of 2019 is a bond resolution, $200,000 for improvements, including engineering and planning costs at the Lobster Inn Marina town-owned facility.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier. Roll
Supervisor
call.
Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Aye.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
All right, that's approved. 47 of 19, bond resolution, $200,000 for the purchase of heavy equipment for waste management.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
Approved. 48 of 19, bond authorization, $200,000 for the renovation of the Tupper Boathouse.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses, actually. Approved. 49 of 2019, bond resolution, $250,000 for various drainage project improvements, drainage improvements.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Scalera. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
Approved. 50 of 2019, bond resolution, $250,000 for construction and installation of culverts.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Scalera. Roll call.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad. Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
All right, 51 of 2019, I need to substitute, so if you go to your walk-on packet, there is a substitution there on the bottom of the page, substitution, the docket ID is 30872. It's a bond resolution for $300,000 for acquisition of a vegetative waste recycling site. It's actually not, we're not acquiring a site. This is for improvements to the site that we already have that had to be corrected. So I'll make a motion to substitute number 30872 for 51 of 19.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I'll now make a motion to approve 30872.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
Okay, that is approved. All right, we're on 52 of 2019. It's a bond resolution for $300,000 for the reconstruction or replacement of existing bulkheads at various trustee locations.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad. Roll call.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera. Excuse me.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
Approved. 53 of 2019, a bond resolution, $350,000 for the construction of a new heated garage and storage facility for the police department.
Second. Sorry.
Who's my second? Seconded by Councilwoman Scalera.
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Roll call, yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier.
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Yes.
All right. 54 of 19, bond authorization, $750,000 for equipment costing $30,000 or more for construction or maintenance purposes.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. 55 and 19 is a bond resolution, $2,350,000 for reconstruction of various town roads, subdivision roads, and included bike paths.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. 56 and 19 is a bond resolution, $3 million for improvements to various town-owned buildings.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. 57 of 2019, bond resolution, $5 million for the purchase of the Hampton Bays Community Center building site located at 25 Ponthog Avenue in Hampton Bays.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. 58 of 19, a bond resolution, $75,000 for the Hampton Bays Overlay District Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman, Scalera. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. 59 and 19, bond resolution, $75,000 for comprehensive plan action item.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 60 of 19, bond resolution, $85,000 for engineering plans and permits to dredge at various beaches and marinas.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. Number 61 of 19, a bond resolution for $200,000 for professional planning and design services for various town-owned facilities, including the Jackson Avenue campus.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. 62 of 2019, bond resolution for $340,000 for shoreline renourishment within the North Sea Beach Colony Erosion Control District.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
Approved. 63 of 2019, bond resolution, $600,000 for various information technology purposes.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. Roll call?
Supervisor Schneiderman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lofstad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scalera?
Yes.
Councilman Bouvier?
Yes.
Councilman Schiavone?
Yes.
All right, approved. All right, that could be it for roll calls for a little while. 64 of 2019, resolution of adoption deleting Town Code Chapter 27, Department of Business Management, Town Management Services Administrator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier. We held a public hearing on this earlier. Any discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? One no. 4 yeses, and it passes. So that's approved. We move on to 65 of 2019, resolution of adoption amending Town Code Chapter 72, Town Controller, to include additional responsibilities.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. We had a hearing on this earlier. Any discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Councilman Scalera is voting in opposition. Four yeses and one no. And that is approved. Number 66 of 2019 is a notice of public hearing on the acquisition of lands of Parviz and Parvene Kodadadian LLC, Gali Kahood and Kodadadian North Sea, and amending the CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include those properties or that property.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Resolution 67 of 2019, which is amending town's community preservation project plan and the CPF management stewardship plan to include the Bel Air Cove Resorts, Inc. Since I left open a 2-week comment period, I'll adjourn that to table it to the next meeting.
To the 22nd?
Yes, please.
You left the comment period open to what date?
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
So when is that?
The next meeting is the
Next meeting is next
22nd.
week.
22nd.
Is that within 2 weeks, or
Closes
It's
at
the
5
same day.
o'clock on the 22nd.
It's 2 weeks from today.
Yes.
that's 2 weeks from today? Okay.
It's a night meeting, so it would include the day for comments to be given in.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so it's a motion to table to the 22nd. Is there a second to table it?
Second?
Second by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that resolution is tabled to January 22nd. Number 68 of 2019 authorizes acquisition of lands of McDonald Watermill and amends the CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include that property.
Second.
This is not to exceed $1.425 million. Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. This one is the one on the left there, surrounded by open space with the house that will have to be removed. Okay, any discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. I think that's a good acquisition. Number 69 of 2019, authorize acquisition of lands of Miller, North Sea, and amends the CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include that property. It's an $800,000 acquisition, the one on the far right there. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Councilwoman Lofstad. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. That, I think, also is an excellent acquisition. Okay, moving on to the walk-ons. All right, Christine, you have the first one. You want to read it?
ID number 30863 is a, yeah, it's the same one, 2019 notice to bidders for embroidered and silkscreen clothing. And that's for our uniforms, we're not just getting fashionable.
Second?
Good, thanks for clarifying that.
That'd be a first. All right, seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 30867, it's warrant number 1, CPF, I'm sorry, capital number 1, CPF number 1, and payroll liability.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 30868, continuation of legal services by Stephen Leventhal, Esquire, for ethics matters.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. He's doing a fine job there. Tommy John?
30873A, to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with ESRI for consulting support services for the upgrade of the town's ESRI software and systems.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 30876, retaining the firm of Margolin Bisunder LLP to represent and defend the town in regard to the matter of the Group for the East End, Inc. et al. Versus Town of Southampton ZBA and DLV Quag LLC et al.
Second.
I'm sorry, seconded by Councilwoman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Did I get all the ayes there?
Aye,
Any
aye.
opposed, any opposed, discussion, anything? Okay, so that was approved.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
All right. 30879, resolution setting a public hearing to consider the adoption of Hampton Bays Waterfront Revitalization Plan. What I'd like to actually do is to table this to the next meeting, so, because Kyle's been away, I'd like to have Kyle review the plan.
I also have a request, I was going to do a motion, but that you add that it's an urban renewal plan, because this reads, it's misleading in the title. And urban renewal plans have, as you now know, a significance, a legal significance in and of themselves, and I just want it clear that that's what that is. So you can put it in parentheses following the waterfront revitalization plan words.
We could cite the
Do you
urban
want to
renewal
withdraw it and
section of the
make all these
statute.
changes and have it resubmitted, or you want to do this?
No, I'd like to
It's
have
not
it so that
added.
people can start reviewing the plan, but we can amend the title of it.
I could just say subject to, or
You just put
reference
parentheses,
general municipal
urban
law,
renewal plan.
Article 15, urban renewal law, I can.
Although it does say it in a whereas.
I can
Yeah,
reference
I want
that.
it in the title.
Sure, I could put
Because when
that.
I read that, I mean, a
So-
waterfront revitalization
So let
plan
me
also
make,
has legal
let me
significance.
make a motion then to amend it to add urban renewal plan to the title, and then I'll make a motion to table. Okay, so we'll solve that.
Do you have a second for the amendment?
Second?
Seconded the amendment by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor of adding the words urban renewal to the title?
I'd say pursuant to general municipal law, Article 15, urban
Can somebody
renewal.
email this to?
Yeah, Jim will
Make sure
email
we
it
get
to you.
right for-
I'll send it.
Okay, that'd be wonderful,
Okay.
thank you.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
So all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now it's amended, and I'll make a motion to table the amended resolution to the next meeting.
What was it amended to?
We're adding to the title of the...
Referencing the
It's only
fact that it's
references
a
urban
urban renewal plan. We're just referencing the fact that it's an urban renewal plan under, under a general municipal law, Article 15. That's,
And that all is going to be in the title?
Yes.
What you say?
yeah.
Aye.
Oh,
We
okay.
need a second on the tabling now.
Second.
Seconded by Council Bouvier. All in favor of
Aye.
tabling? Aye, to the next meeting.
January 22nd?
Does the public hearing actual date then have to change as well?
I don't,
February 26th, still okay?
it's over a month from,
That should be,
We're changing the resolution.
I think that's
still-
okay.
Yeah, it's still well over 30. That's well, you
At
know,
least 30, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We have more than enough time, sure. yeah.
Okay. So number 730881, reserves Community Preservation Fund, Water Quality Improvement Funds to finance water main extensions and connections in certain areas of East Quogue.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. So what this will do, will set aside $4 million in CPF money to pay for the installation of a water main, as well as surcharges and tapping fees, as well as connections to homes in the area in East Quogue that has been impacted by the perfluorinated compound PFOA, PFOS. All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Board, for working together on getting that in place, and that is approved. And what is
I don't
this
have to do,
amendment?
I was going to amend my resolution that I had for the same purpose, to
Okay.
include the more expansive numbers, but since we're doing it as a board, there was no necessity to do that.
Okay.
So I'll just drop it.
Okay, is there any other business? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Scalera, all in favor?
Aye.